I'm Effie and this is What Effie Reads. Today's video is going to be one that you've probably seen on a few different channels. The one that inspired me to do it is Becca over at Becca and the Books. It is going to be these books will self-destruct in 12 months. In case you haven't seen this concept before, basically I'm going to show you some books that I plan on getting rid of in 12 months. My library is a mixture of books that I've chosen and picked up for myself, but also books that people have unhauled onto me or just plain said, I'm moving, have my library. So there's a real mix of books that I care about and books that I'm not that excited about. I already have quite a stack of books that I have been quite decisive in saying these aren't books that I am interested in keeping, so I am going to unhaul these as soon as I figure out how. Please do let me know how to do that. I don't drive, so it's quite challenging. Anyway, so these are some books that I'm going to make a promise with myself and use this video to hold myself accountable to, that whether I've read them or not, I'm getting rid of them in 12 months. I will say that if I read them and love them and I'm likely to reread them, I'm not going to make myself get rid of them. But if I have not read them in the next 12 months, then they have to go regardless. So without further ado, these are the books that I have picked out. And I should probably say that I didn't count how many there are, but it's a fair stack. So the first one we've got is Rogue by Rachel Vincent. The blurb is, there's a reason we have the rules we have, and apparently you're it. Rebellious werecat Faith is shocked when the bodies of murdered men begin turning up in her pride's territory, especially as the killings can be traced back to her former life as an ordinary college student. But could a message from an old friend provide a chilling clue? Faith knows that a past indiscretion may have led to these men's deaths. She also risks exposing her family's supernatural secret. Faced with a terrifying choice, Faith must decide. Pray the tribal council grant her mercy, or risk everything and pursue her own brand of justice. So, feels like it's going to be a fairly standard werewolfy novel, which could go either way. But am I going to care enough to read it in the next 12 months? I don't know. And I won't say that after every book. I'm sorry. The next book that we have, it's signed. I received as an ARC through a Goodreads giveaway when they still allowed UK people to enter their giveaways, and it is Black Whiskers, The River Pirate by John Williamson. It looks to be a fairly quick read, but I look at the artwork on the front and I think this probably isn't a book for me. And that's not a critique of the artwork, it's just, it doesn't set the tone of a book that would appeal to me. It says, when the second most fearsome pirate of all of Wingtangleshire narrowly survives a mutiny, he sets about his greatest adventure yet. First he must conscript a new crew, a gang of troublesome water rats who, under his command, discover the true terror and true adventure in equal measure. Black Whiskers, from a wing to the wild, and his crew must outwit the secret order of the Badger to steal the fisherman's gold, and the greatest treasure in a river creek. Apparently I can't read this. The greatest treasure a river creature can possess. The question is, can they get there before his old enemy, Captain Silk? And if they do, what possible hope have they got of keeping it? Both outnumbered and outgunned, a battle of wits between the two menaces of the river rages. With action and adventure from the start, there's only one room for... I really can't read this. There is only room for one pirate on the river, and there's absolutely no room for runners-up. The next book we've got is The 7 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. Now this is a book that I added to my wish list because I got it confused with The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. It's a book that I'm pretty sure I wanted to read anyway, but then my best friend read it and hated it, so it could be a book that I don't enjoy. And the blurb is really short. It's just that tiny bit there. It says, at a party thrown by her parents, Evelyn Hardcastle will be killed. Again. She's been murdered hundreds of times, and each day Aidan Bishop is too late to save her. The only way to break this cycle is to identify Evelyn's killer. But every time the day begins again, Aidan wakes up in the body of a different guest, and someone is desperate to stop him ever escaping Blackheath. See, that blurb sounds really interesting, but I've also heard people really not enjoying it. Angel Time by Anne Rice. Toby O'Dare, Lucky the Fox, is a contract killer of underground fame. In his youth, Lucky had dreamt of being a priest. Instead, he fell into a life of danger and violence. Living under a series of aliases, he long ago lost any sense of his true self, becoming a pawn to the right man, a contract with dark and unknown allegiances. Lucky has one place where he can be without disguise, but his latest assignment is at this sanctuary, the Mission Inn, and it is an order to kill. Into this nightmarish world of lone and lethal missions comes a mysterious stranger, a seraph, who offers him a chance to save lives rather than destroy them. Now Lucky has the chance to repair the damage of his past. Girl Unknown by Karen Parry. I think you might be my father. When first-year student Zoe Barry walks into Professor David Connolly's office and tentatively says these words, he is left reeling. But it is the lives of his family, particularly his wife Caroline, which are turned upside down by the arrival of this stranger. A daughter, a sister, a friend, an enemy. Though no one knows quite who Zoe is, she is soon entangled in their lives. Yet her stories don't ring true, and Caroline is determined to learn if the girl is the unlucky innocent she claims to be, or someone with a far darker agenda. A deadly cuckoo in the nest. By letting Zoe in, David and Caroline aren't just leaving themselves vulnerable, they're risking the most precious thing in the world, the lives of their children. So it sounds like a domestic thriller, which I'm not sure I enjoy. The First 15 Lives of Harry August. This is another book that I've gotten some way through and just given up in the past. So I don't have the highest of hopes. It says, some stories cannot be told in just one lifetime. No matter what he does or the decisions he makes, every time Harry dies, he always returns to where he began. a child with all the knowledge of a life lived a dozen times before. Nothing ever changes until now. As Harry nears the end of his 11th life, a little girl appears at his bedside. I nearly missed you, Dr. August, she says. I need to send a message. This is the story of what Harry does next, and what he did before, and how he tries to save a past he cannot change and a future he cannot allow. Someone We Know by Shari Lapena. Now, this may be an odd addition to this list because this is a well-loved author of thrillers. However, I've read 2 thrillers by this author before and not enjoyed. I read The Couple Next Door and it just felt convoluted and not great. And I read An Unwanted Guest and I just didn't love it. So this one is, it can be hard keeping secrets in a tight-knit neighbourhood. In a tranquil, leafy suburb of ordinary streets, one where everyone is polite and friendly, an anonymous note has been left at some of the houses. I'm so sorry, my husband has been getting into people's houses. He's broken into yours. Who is the boy and what might he have uncovered? As whispers start to circulate, suspicion mounts, and when a missing local woman is found murdered, the tension reaches breaking point. Who killed her? Who knows more than they're telling? And how far will all these very nice people go to protect their secrets? Maybe you don't know your neighbour as well as you thought you did. 13 Blue Envelopes by Maureen Johnson. I listened to Let It Snow at the end of last year, and Maureen Johnson was one of the contributors, and I really did not enjoy her addition to the story, which makes me feel very wary of reading any of her work. And now that I'm thinking about it, I have a really bad feeling that they're questionable. But I don't know. If your free-spirited aunt left you 13 little blue envelopes, would you follow the directions? Would you travel around the world? Would you open the envelopes one by one? Inside envelope 1 is money and instructions to buy a plane ticket. Inside envelope 2 are directions to a specific London flat. Inside envelope 3 tells Ginny, find a starving artist. Because of envelope 4, Ginny and a playwright / thief / man about town called Keith go to Scotland together with disastrous, though really romantic results. But will she ever see him again? Everything about Ginny will change this summer, and it's all because of 13 little blue envelopes. Oh yeah, pretty sure this one's got an age gap as well. If I do get to read this one, it might be a dinner. Susan Hill, Mrs. De Winter. Now, I'm almost certain Susan Hill has done some questionable things. And I remember enjoying Rebecca. I have got a copy up there that I plan on rereading soon. So it's difficult because obviously this is intended to be a sequel to Rebecca. But also, if an author's not great, then an author's not great. I should probably state apologies to any authors if I think they've done something not good and I am misremembering. I am not going to read the blurb of this one because I think it's got spoilers for Rebecca. The School of Good and Evil by Soman, Chainani. Sophie had waited all her life to be kidnapped. Every 4 years, 2 children are stolen away from Gavaladon, never to return. Most children fear being taken to the school for good and evil, but not Sophie. She has dreamed She has dreamt all her life of being a princess and believes the school could be her chance. Her best friend Agatha has other ideas. When the two girls are taken, things don't quite go to Sophie's plan, but sometimes the princess and the witch don't look like they do in fairy tales. I feel like I'm seeing a theme with these books, because here we've got another book that I've clearly made it part of the way through, as there's a bookmark in it, and stopped for some reason. So we've got The Girl Who Lied by Sue Fortin. Sometimes the perfect friend tells the perfect lies. Arne and Roisin were once friends until a fatal accident ruined both their lives. Now Roisin has discovered a secret, one Arne has kept for over a decade, and she's determined to make Arne pay for her lies. When Roisin suddenly disappears, suspicion soon lands on Arne. She would do anything to protect her family, but just how far is she willing to go when time is running out? Never Evers by Tom Allan and Lucy Ivison. The school ski trip isn't going to plan. Mouse has fallen out with her friends, and Jack's totally clueless about girls. But when a French pop star, who Jack's a dead ringer for, arrives at the restaurant, the snowy slopes begin to get a bit more interesting. Oh, sounds like it's going to be a Prince and the Pauper retelling, which I've got a real fancy for. I may have to actually pick this up soon. And then I imagine it's going to be one of those that I'll enjoy, but then not need to continue. It's going to be one of those that I enjoy, but then probably would never pick up again. But if it is a Prince and the Pauper retelling, I'm quite excited for it. Watching You by Arne Dahl. This is a book that I picked up last month during my dice control my reading for a week, and I got some of the way through. I can't remember how far I got through, and I ended up DNFing it. That was after I'd stopped letting the dice control my reading, but it just wasn't gripping me. So I'm using this as a way to give myself permission to get rid of it if I try it again and it just doesn't do it for me. Someone is watching. At each abandoned crime scene, there's a hidden clue, a tiny metal cog, almost invisible to the naked eye. Someone is sending Detective Sam Berger a message, someone who knows that only he will understand the cryptic trail. Someone knows. When another teenage girl disappears without trace, Sam must convince his superiors that they're dealing with a serial killer. As the police continue the hunt to find the latest victim, Sam is forced to unearth long-buried personal demons. He has no choice if he is to understand the killer's darkly personal message before time runs out. Somebody is killing just for him. With Malice by Eileen Cook. Waking in a hospital bed with her leg in a cast, the last 6 weeks of Jill's life are a complete blank. All she knows is what she's been told. While in Italy, on a school trip, she was involved in a fatal accident and had to be jetted home to receive intensive care that involves a lawyer and a press team, because maybe the accident wasn't just an accident. If you can't remember what happened, how can you be sure you're not to blame? Jerusalem by William Blake. Now, this is a book that I picked up because it was stupid cheap, and then I look at the font and it just puts me off from reading it. I also think it's probably going to be very, very religious. Very religious doesn't do it for me. I had negative experiences with a church who may or may not have been a cult, depending on who you ask. and it's kind of put me off preachy Christianity. I don't know how to phrase it. Like, I have no problem with any religion. It's the way that religion is used to justify being unpleasant. And this particular church did not believe in queer identities of any variety. They also told us that we were going to hell because we couldn't afford to tithe, which I'm sure is a debate to be had within the religious community, but also telling someone who is struggling financially that they're going to hell because they can't afford to give money to other people doesn't feel like the most Christian behaviour. And the last book is Her Name Was Rose by Claire Allan. Her death has created a vacancy. When Emily lets a stranger step out in front of her, she never imagines that split second will change her life. But after Emily watches a car plough into the young mother, killing her instantly, she finds herself unable to move on. And then she makes a decision she can never take back. Because Rose has everything Emily ever dreamed of. A beautiful, loving family, a great job, and a stunning home. And now Rose's husband misses his wife, and their son needs a mother. Why couldn't Emily fill that space? But as Emily is about to discover, no one's life is perfect, and not everything is as it seems. So that's my stack of books that will self-destruct in 12 months. Some of them actually sound interesting, but then a good blurb should sound appealing. I'm really interested to see if I will actually pick these up over the next 12 months. And please, please, please do let me know down below in the comments if you think I'm making a mistake with any of these books, if you've read any of them and think I'll love them, if you read any of them and think I'll hate them. And also, quite controversially, tell me if there's anything you think I should know about the authors, because I find problematic authors just not something that I'm interested in supporting. So if any of these authors aren't great, let me know, preferably with sources. And also let me know if you do this kind of thing. And until next time, bye!